Hi, thank you for being with us today. I'm Teresa Bruno, and I'm the host of the Soul Talks podcast. This podcast is dedicated to survival, and that means a whole lot of things. That means how do you walk out of survival? How do you have hope to survive? What does it look like to rewrite your story? And sometimes it is sitting on the sidelines and seeing another person in a difficult situation and not knowing how to respond or help them survive. And we're here again this week, as we are every week, with our resident therapist, Sheri Ryland. We're going to talk about anger today, anger in the context of, really understanding the definition of anger, what it is, where it comes from inside of us, but also anger in terms of when you're watching someone be abused in an angry situation. How do you handle a toxic family situation that involves a lot of anger? So I'm going to turn it over to Sheri and let her share lots of wisdom and tools for us today. So, hey, thank you always for being here. And
Thank you for
boy, do
having
we
me.
dive into some hard topics.
Ooh, for sure.
This one just
Yes.
makes me kind of get scared.
Well, because anger does bring that out in people, right? It brings
Yeah.
out fear. The person who's angry is in fear most of the time, although they don't know how to show it. The people who are dealing with people who are angry are in fear. And then the bystanders, the people who are trying to support those that are dealing with an angry person.
Right.
So I think that's what we want to talk about today is understanding anger. So when we think about anger, we think of like, who's the population that like when we think of men versus women, who are the ones that embody anger is usually a man, right?
Right.
So when we think about men being angry, that's the tool that we've taught them as a child, that's acceptable of all the emotions. The anger is okay, right? You just go punch them, go fight it out, get it, get that feeling out, that anger out. That's acceptable for them to say that they're angry versus hurt, ashamed, embarrassed, all the things that come along with fear that bring out anger. That's that explosive. It doesn't have to be explosive. I could just be like angry and I don't like you. I want to punch you.
Right.
But when I'm really in the anger to the state of being violent anger, there's so much going on in your body that is feeling out of control. And that's the feeling that goes straight to anger and that goes to violence. And those are the things that are happening all over the world right now, not just in your home.
Not just in relationships or
absolutely, right. And how do we watch people in the news who are angry and aggressive and
mass shootings,
right?
War.
And where have we learned along this time period politics for sure, right? And where did we learn that shooting somebody because you're angry is the answer, that's the only option, right? Or stabbing somebody or killing somebody, right? Somewhere along the line, we missed the whole idea of understanding our emotions and how to regulate that. So when you're watching bad things happen to people around you, let's say your sister is married to an aggressive or verbally aggressive or assaultive physically person, and you have to watch that because they don't listen to you, right? That's what you feel like. They're not listening to me. I've told them 100 times, get away, and now I'm getting angry.
Well, and that leads to the whole abuse thing and why we stay in abuse. And I know that's not the topic for today, maybe next time.
Right.
But, anger and abuse are, to me, so integrally tied.
Absolutely,
relationally,
right.
And not just in, our intimate partner marriage relationships, but parent-child relationships.
Right.
And anger and abuse just sit hand in hand.
Right. And I'm going to use an example. I was in yoga the other day, and we were talking about the idea of the light and the dark, right? And they were talking about how we have to recognize the good in us, and give it
The light.
Give it light.
Yeah.
But we also have to recognize the bad or the anger or the not good desires that we have, right? So because if I ignore them, they're laying dormant and I'm going to explode when they come out, right? So if I'm angry and I'm just saying, oh, shut up, you have to be positive, you can't be rude, you can't be ugly, anger is bad, that is absolutely not true. It is another emotion. It is a real emotion that you have to notice it's happening. You have to say like, why? Why did that upset me so much? Why did that make me angry? Why do I feel like I really want to wring that person's neck? Why do I feel that way? And I think that's the question we have to ask is not, is it wrong? Is it bad?
It's not about judgment.
How do I change it to I love you? Well, you know what? Sometimes you just don't like that person.
Right.
You hate them. It's okay to say that. I don't ever want you in my life. And that comes to the idea of when is it okay to burn that bridge and say, never are you going to be in my life again.
When is it?
When that person I know this sounds terrible. When that person no longer brings any value to your life.
Okay.
Right? Not just that person isn't going to give me money or that person isn't going to support you. But if the value they bring to my life is to put me down, is to make me feel bad or to make me feel scared and nervous, I don't want that in my life. That's a value statement that you are not good.
When people are abusively angry, let's just say verbal or assaulting, abusively angry in whatever the relationship is,
Right.
what's the likelihood of the angry person changing?
In that moment?
Not in that moment, but even in
general.
therapy, in general.
It depends on where their anger comes from, right? And I think, and I will preface that with most things, right? It depends, right?
Okay.
So it depends. Is that like that's the only way they know how to handle things? Your distrust tolerance is very low, and you don't know how to handle things, so you immediately fly off the handle. You've only been shown violence as the way to handle things. And so if that's the case, then we're rewiring or changing your narrative in your mind that all emotions are okay. It's just what we do with them. And that's trainable behavior. That's teachable behavior. When you're talking about somebody who, my favorite word, who is a narcissist, I'm sorry, they're reacting based on an injury. They're reacting based on an attack, based on this feeling of the world is against me. That is not necessarily reality for anybody else involved. In their mind it is, right? So that's a understanding of the world that your reality check is broken, right? I am not paying attention to what's really happening. I'm only noticing the wound that's happening to me. So in that case, that's very hard.
It's just hard lens. It's like we're not just talking about anger, but then we're getting inside, this person who sees the world from a perspective that is not
right.
I mean, there's no normal, but that is not like a lot of other humans.
Right. We're talking about a regulated human, right? Somebody who understands how, afterward, man, I was so upset when I had that argument. I really shouldn't have told her I hated her. How many teenagers tell their parents, even young children, I hate you. I wish you were dead, right? And then they think afterward, if something bad happens to that person, oh my God, it was my fault.
Right.
They cared enough. They knew that was wrong and something bad happened and they feel like they had that control to do something to them by saying it. Somebody who is a narcissist, that damn right they deserved it, right? Because they did that to me. Those people don't, I'm sorry to say those people, but they do not understand that dynamic. So you're not going to change that.
Okay.
We're not going to change that. But we're talking about the rest of the world that knows how to regulate their emotions in the sense of your body can do it, right? You know that there's right or wrong. You know that your actions were too aggressive. They were too much. You want to be responsible
for yourself the next time.
Exactly.
You don't want to feel like you felt after you had the outburst.
Right. So the best apology is changed behavior, right? So if I want to learn how to be a better person, which I have a lot of men and women come to my office and say, you know what, my wife or my husband or my partner has told me that I'm too aggressive or my anger is too much. And I want to learn how to deal with anger. That's my person. You come in, we're going to figure that out. We're going to figure out why are you so angry? What can we do about that? But if you're having somebody in your life that is a narcissist or is somebody who just is never going to take responsibility for their behavior, those are the bridges you're going to burn.
Okay. All right. Those are good lessons. That's something to hang on to.
Yes.
Hard lessons.
Absolutely.
We have a hard time letting go of those relationships that no longer serve us.
Right. And if they're hurtful, it's okay to walk away from them. I'm going to stand by that. That is
if they're
definitely
hurtful,
okay.
It's okay to walk away from them. Let's hear Dr. Sheri, loud and clear. Thank you for being with us today. Look forward to seeing you next week with Sheri. And in the meantime, take care and take hope.